Hi, my name is John Campbell, and I'm running for the 53rd Congressional District of California. Wedge issues. Something that divides our country and runs our politics oftentimes. I'm making this video because a number of you have asked me what my opinions are on wedge issues. I do have opinions and I want to share them with you, and I'm going to. I just want to emphasize the fact that these are not issues that I'm going to be necessarily focused on. And what I've done is I've put this on my website. I've tried to put a scale of 1 to 3 on different issues on how I'm going to be treating them. 1 being something that I'm going to actively try and reform or improve, 2 being something that I will still engage with, and 3 being something that frankly I'm just going to be reactive to, and it is not a primary issue for me. Having said that, I realize wedge issues are very important to other individuals. So I'm not trying to discount that, but there's a number of factors that are involved, such as the ability to even move the issue along, that affect my interest in pursuing that. I'm really focused on other issues that I will explain in other videos. So, a couple things. First off, some of you may not even make it through this video, and I recognize that, and it's unfortunate because, as I said, these aren't the issues that are the focus of my campaign. I can't overemphasize that enough. Let's get into a couple of them, though. The first 2 I actually rank as a 3 as far as my legislative agenda goes. The first one is abortion. Honestly, I can't get past the act of forcing a woman to give birth and the consequences being criminal punishment. So that being said, if you have to classify me as something, I guess technically you'd classify me as pro-choice. On the flip side, I think it should be treated as the immense matter that it is that you are ending a life. So those considerations need to be made in dealing with the specifics of the issue. But bottom line is, I think the woman needs to have the right to be able to make that choice. The second issue would be gun rights. I'm personally kind of terrified of guns. I've shot them probably a half a dozen times. I do see how, I don't even know the right word, empowering or impressive it is to fire a gun, but I really don't want to be around them personally. That being said, I can't imagine being a smaller person. I'm a tall, big guy, so from a physical safety standpoint, I don't think about threats as much as maybe the average person would. But for instance, let's say you're 5 foot tall and 100 pounds, and you've got somebody that's been kind of acting strangely with you. I can't imagine telling that person, sorry, you just have to call the police after something's happened. I realize there are many options between a gun and nothing, tasers, things like that, but I really think that considering the circumstances, I think an individual should have the right to defend themselves. In a larger, more geopolitical scale, I recall this scenario with a video in Iran with a woman called Nada, and where she died on film. And that video struck me pretty hard, and I kept thinking, what would have happened if the Iranian people had something to counter the Iranian military police that would have changed the battle. And I guess that's a poor choice of words, but it would have allowed them to defend themselves had they had a citizenry that had arms. Who knows? Iran might be a different country now. I realize how unrealistic that seems in the United States, but it should be kept in the back of the mind, I think, at all times. I think Jefferson said, when people fear the government, it's tyranny, and when the government fears the people, it's liberty. So I tend to agree with that remark. Having said all of that, I don't have any intention of changing any of the current gun laws. I think the debate ultimately comes down to the concern over an individual's ability to inflict a lot of damage in these school shootings and things like that. I think the immediate reaction is to talk about gun clips and things like that, and the alternative is to talk about arming the school. I would engage in that debate, but that's not going to be something that I have an expertise in, and not something that I'm going to actively pursue. So most of you have probably left the debate by now, or left to watch the video. These are tough issues, but I'm putting out my position and letting you know. And again, some of these issues I won't ever bring up again, as I focus on other issues. So another one is marriage. The short answer there is I would support legislation legalizing gay marriage. The longer answer is I actually have some views on why the government really should be involved in the relationship between two people, but that's a longer video that would be addressed another time. Another one would be drug legalization, specifically marijuana. I personally haven't used it. Obviously, like all of us, we have a lot of friends that have used it and are fine, functioning, outstanding citizens. I personally don't care if someone goes into a room for a week and just smokes themselves silly. But the concerns that I have are that our culture is a little bit, we're a little bit consequence-free right now. And we seem to be moving more towards consequence-free. The two issues that come to mind for me with legalizing pot is the DUI scenarios, which I know that's being addressed, and perhaps that those advancements will happen in the next year or two through science or some other method, and that will get resolved. If so, that's great. The other one would be for people that are making those decisions to use those drugs on a routine and maybe excessive basis, and then ultimately lose their job or impact others in some way. I don't want the employer or the taxpayers to necessarily suffer the consequences of that. So I think that needs to be sorted out a little bit more. And I realize there's parallels with drinking and other drugs too, but I'm just stating my concerns. But in the end, I think pot will be legalized, and that's not something I'm going to actively get engaged in, I guess you'd say fighting that issue. So those are kind of the quick four that come to mind. There's others that are far more complex that I hope to address in another video. Things like immigration, healthcare reform, a few others. And I do plan on getting engaged in those discussions because I think I do have something to add to those, and maybe even help to get some resolution on those specific issues. Anyways, those are that's my scratching the surface of wedge issues. As I mentioned before, some of them I'm not even going to bring up again, and I'm going to focus on other issues and hope to get the other issues resolved. Thank you very much for your time.